YouTube, what's up? It is Tuesday, June 4th. There are 15 games to talk about in baseball today, but first, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't, because as you can see here, we're still in the green. 5-4 yesterday, only 0.7 units of profit, but guess what? Profit is profit. We will take it. If the Padres didn't choke to the Angels, would have hit the money line parlay, which would have been an additional 9.5 units, I think. So close to greatness. Either way, for the month, up 34.7 units. That's, look at that record, 138 and 114. Beautiful. Stats are crushing it. We'd like to see that. Either way, there are 15 games. We need to jump into those. Let's do it. All right, first game, we got Kansas City and Cleveland. We got Lugo with a 1.72 against McKenzie with a 3.77. Betting markets are currently showing us that the Guardians are a slight favorite. Over under 8.5 with some juice on that under. Looking at the pitching matchups here, we see that Lugo, that 1.72 is nice. We see that in his last few games, dude has been on fire. One earned run, 1-2, 1-2, 1. Dude is a beast. And the strikeouts, he has a 12 game, a 10 game. Not as much here recently, but still, he gets wins. He doesn't give up runs, hence the 1.72, let's be honest. And then coming over to McKenzie, we see 3.77. He gets his own strikeouts. Again, 4-3, 1-1-1. Dude isn't bad either, but he's trending the wrong way. He's starting to give up more runs. Colorado rocked him a little bit last game. 4 earned runs, not as good as you like to see. Bouncing over to the data, we see 53% Nerfy. Not really going to talk about that. Nothing there. Runs a game. Kansas City at 5 for 9th place, 5.4 for 6th in the last week. Cleveland only 4 runs a game, which is 18th. They're only batting 217, which is 26th. That's not good for Cleveland. They're struggling to hit the ball. Kansas City 277 for 7th best, and on strikeouts they're 6th and 7th at 6.7 and 6.3. So the advantages here lean Kansas City not only on the batting averages and on the runs, but we also have the pitching advantage between Lugo with a 1.72 with a 1.01 whip, just dominating versus McKenzie. Yeah, everything lines up Kansas City here. So looking back at the numbers here, we see the Royals are a slight dog for some reason. I'm not buying that. Give me Kansas City money line all day in this one because of the matchup and the stats here. Also on the over-under, I am not going to play that because we have a beast pitcher, we have a decent pitcher, and we have a struggling offense and a pretty decent offense. So none of those, that's not a good formula for an over-under. So just Kansas City money line, move on to the next game. All right, we got the Dodgers and the Pirates. We got Glasnow versus Jones, 304 versus 355. Betting markets, -200, heavy favorite for Dodgers on the road. 7.5 is your over-under. Looking at the data, we see 48.5% on the Nerfy as a pass. Pittsburgh, advantage on scoring runs. They've been doing a little bit better than Dodgers. Batting averages, about the same. You see 14th and 19th, middle of the pack. Dodgers aren't striking out. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh is striking out 9.3 times, which is 24th. That's interesting when we look at the pitching matchups here. And we come over to Glasnow first, and we see that dude's a beast. #1 in the majors at 95 strikeouts so far. And he gets 10, he can get 8, 6, 8, 10, 10. Dude strikes everyone out. And these are 5 innings, 7 innings. These are amazing numbers here. So I am definitely looking at Glasnow props against a team who's striking out the 24th most in the past 3 games. Also, looking at Jones's number here, earned runs, he is progressively getting worse. He went from 0 to 2 to 3 to 3 to 5. He is trending terribly. In baseball, we follow trends, so we're going to follow that trend. So based on this information here, coming back over to the odds here, we see Dodgers -200. I'm going to take that. The stats, nothing really stands out stat-wise, but the pitching matchup tells the whole story here. I'm taking the Dodgers. I might even take Dodgers on the run line at -1.5. We're not going to do the over-under. We're going to pass on that because Jones might just get rocked today, in my opinion. So Glasnow props, a money line parlay piece with the Dodgers because the statistics line up for us this time, and the run line Dodgers. Next game. Next up, we got the Brewers and the Phillies. We got Ray with a 3.77 against Sanchez with a 2.83. Betting markets show the Phillies as a pretty decent favorite at home. 8.5 is your total. Data shows us 42% Nerfy, pass there. Both teams struggling to score runs in the past 3, 20th and 15th. Not good for scoring. Batting averages 24th and 27, 221, 208. Ain't going to get it done, guys. both struggling to hit the ball and scoring, and they're both striking out a good bit. 9 for Milwaukee and 8.3 for Philly. So not too good. When you consider the pitching advantages here, we see that Colin Ray, he has been up and down. He got really started doing this, and now he's coming back down because 1, 2, 5, 3, he is definitely a peak. So he's come back down. He had his best start since May 1st, 5 innings, only 1 earned run against the Cubs. So that's the only thing that stands out there. And his counterpart, Sanchez, 6 innings, no earned runs, 1, 2. Dude's also on trajectory of pitching like a beast. We got 2 dudes there on fire when it comes to pitching. Trend-wise, we have 2 teams that are absolutely struggling to hit the ball recently when it comes to runs and batting averages. And we have a current total sitting at 8.5. I'm going to take the under 8.5 in this one for that plus 100. We're going to pass on the money line because too many things too consistently with each other to pick a side. We're not going to take a strikeout prop either. So just under 8.5 and move on to the next game. Next up, we got Tampa Bay and Miami. We got Pepio with a 3.89 and Luzardo with a 4.18. Looking at the betting markets, slight favorite for the Rays. 7.5 your total with some juice on that under. Data time, 59.3, not good enough for a Nerfy. Looking at statistics, both teams struggling to score recently. 3.3% Bay, 2.7 for Miami, both garbage. Batting averages, both middle to top, 267, 265, basically the same. So no advantage there. And strikeouts, 8.3 to 9, no advantage here. So we have 0 advantages when it comes to the stats here. Looking over at the pitching matchups, we start with Pepio first. He's pitched 2, 3, 3. He's only pitched 3 games here recently, and because he had a little bit of a break in there, but 2, 3, 3, nothing stands out there. Looking over at Luzardo, 3. He did have a couple good games where he didn't give up any earned runs. Gave up 3 to San Diego. Outside of that, he's pitching pretty good. Slightly lean him on the advantage when it comes to the pitching matchup. The stats have nothing there for us, though. They are just terrible stats. So going back over to the odds, with the way the odds are, I'm passing on the money line. Total-wise, I couldn't tell you what's going to happen in this game. Both teams are struggling. Both pitchers are pretty decent, but 7.5 is a number I don't like to take the under on, so we're going to pass on that as well. So nothing in this game. Move on to the next one. Next up, we got the Mets and the Nationals. We got Peterson with a 3.6 after only 5 innings against Williams with a 2.22. Betting markets have the Mets as a slight favorite. 8.5 is a total with some juice on the over. Data time, 50.5% Nerfy. That's a pass. We don't talk about that. Looking at the runs, 5-7 for the Mets, which is 6th best in the last 3 games. Washington, 4-7 for 12th. So slight advantage Mets here. Batting average, 283 versus 248. Slight advantage for the Mets again. Strikeouts, they're about the same as you can see there. Looking at the pitching matchups, Peterson has pitched 1 game. He has 5 innings, 7 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 Ks against the Dodgers. We don't know. 1 game tells you nothing. So we don't know, really still don't know anything about him. So now looking at Williams, he does have stats. He pitches 5 innings a game. That's his thing. Once he hits 5, he's gone. They pull him. But he only gives up 1-1, 3-1, 0-0. Dude is pretty good. 2-2-2 with a 108 speaks for itself. He sometimes strikes out, but not much. So nothing really tells me what to do here in this one either. Looking at the stats, we have a slight advantage Mets, but with the pitching matchup, I say goes to Washington, even though he only pitches 5 innings. Those are 5 really good innings. I am going to come back and look at the stats here. I'm going to pass in the money line. I just don't know who to take in this one. The stats are lean the Mets, but the pitching leans the Nationals. I'm not going to take a total. This entire game is going to be a pass. Next game. All right, next up, we got the Twins and the Yankees. We got Ober with a 4.9 against Gill with a 1.99. Betting markets currently have the Yankees as minus 180. Over under 7.5 with 7 juice on that over. Looking at the data, 43% Nerfy, not worth talking about. Runs a game, 4 for Minnesota, 6.7 for the Yankees. The bats are on fire. Advantage New York. Looking at the batting averages, Minnesota 187. They can't buy a base right now. New York 280 for 6, so heavy advantage for New York. Strikeouts about the same, 8-9, nothing to worry about there. Coming over to the pitching matchups, we see Minnesota sending out Ober with a 4.89, and he got rocked by the Twins last time for 9 hits and 6 earned over 5 innings. He got rocked 2 before that for 8 hits and 5 earned against Cleveland. And he's prone to give up runs against decent offenses. So, and New York is sending out Gill. Gill's a beast. 8 innings, 1 run. 6 innings, nothing. 6-1, 6-0, 6-1. Dude is a beast. So the pitching matchup clearly favors New York. The runs favor New York. The batting average favors New York. Looking back at the odds, I'm taking New York minus 180 and a money line parlay for sure. I'm going to take New York on the run line as well in this one because everything screams take New York in this one. Also, we are actually that's the only 2 things we're going to look at. We're not going to look at a strikeout prop or anything like that because Minnesota and New York don't strike out enough for it. So just New York money line and New York run line next game. Next up, we got Baltimore and Toronto. We got Burns with a 2.35 against somebody for Toronto. We have no clue because it has not been announced yet. But there are odds. Betting markets, Orioles 170, over under 8.5 with some juice on that under. Data time. The Nerfy was beautiful yesterday, and we're going to take it again for certain reasons because you see Baltimore's hit the Nerfy 96% of the time when they're on the road, and Toronto's hit it 85.7% of the time when they're at home. And there's also this fun little stat here. It has been 1 month since the Blue Jays have scored a run in the first inning, so take it what you will. The trends are there. We're going to ride them the best we can because it's just crazy numbers. So the Nerfy is an auto bet right now. I don't care. It's an automatic bet. So Baltimore, 3rd in runs at 6.3. Toronto, 27th at 2.7. Not good, guys. Not good at all. Advantage Baltimore heavy. Batting average. Baltimore's batting 315. 245 at Toronto. Advantage Baltimore. Strikeouts 2 and 7, nothing to worry about in the strikeout world. Looking at the pitching matchups, all we got is Burns. So Burns 7 innings, no runs, 6.3, 6.0, 1.3. He's a pretty decent pitcher. 2.35 for the 9th best ERA. Whip at 105 at 20th best. He's a good pitcher. I can't see Toronto setting anybody out as good as Burns today. Just can't see it. So I'm definitely going to be taking Baltimore minus 170 or a better number at that on the money line for sure. And 100% taking the Nerfy in this one. Also might even dabble a little bit with that Baltimore run line, depending how bad this pitcher Toronto puts out. I won't know that till they actually announce somebody later today. So recap: Baltimore money line, potential run line, and definitely the Nerfy next game. Next up, we got Atlanta and Boston. We got Free with a 2.97 against Crawford with a 3.29. Betting markets have the Braves minus 170 with an 8.5 total with some juice on the under. Looking at Sedata, 53.5, not good enough to talk about. 8th and 6th in runs, 5.3 to 5.7. So both teams are scoring runs. Batting average, Boston's batting 291, which is 3rd. Atlanta 265, which is 11th. Atlanta has a slight advantage of strikeout, 6 to 8.3. Not really a big difference, but that's an advantage of Atlanta. Pitching matchup wise, Fried. Looking at his game log here, we see 8 innings, no runs. 9 innings, 1 run. Dude's a beast. He gets it done most games. He's been tagged a couple, like the Dodgers got him for 7 runs back on May 5th. San Diego got 3 runs on him back on May 17th. It happens occasionally, but not too often. Looking over at Crawford, his game log, we see he got tagged pretty hard by Baltimore last game. 5 run before that, 6 run. So he's struggling a little bit. When pitchers they start getting it, they tend to stay that way. So definitely going to be leaning over in this one. Looking at the odds, Braves minus 170 and a parlay piece might be something I look at. I'm definitely going to take 8.5 because both offenses here are in the top 8 when it comes to scoring runs. We have Crawford, who's been prone to give up runs. And we know both offenses can put pop when they want to. So over 8.5. Yeah, we'll put Atlanta in the money line parlay piece and we'll move on to the next game. All right, next up, we got the Chicago versus Chicago series. We got Flexen with 5-5 against Shota, whatever, with a 1.86. Looking at the odds, we have Cubs at minus 300. There's got to be better numbers out there. Over under 8.5 with some juice on the over. Looking at the data, 60% Nerfy, not worth talking about. Both teams middle of the road on runs, 3.7 versus 4.3. Both teams struggling to hit the ball at 220 and 229. That is 25th and 23rd. And strikeouts, White Sox were striking out more, 10.3 versus the Cubs at 7. Pitching matchup is the thing I want to see here. Shota has been a beast all year up until the last game when he got absolutely rocked. 8-7. 2 home runs, only 1 strikeout. Before that, 7, 8, 7, 7. Over, he was crushing it. It was against good teams too. So we know San Diego doesn't strike out. They're always number 1 in strikeouts, and guess what? They struck out 8 times. What do you think he's going to do against the White Sox today? So definitely look at his prop and most likely take it. Might even take a ladder on his props today. If they're striking out that much and he's pitching, yeah, definitely doing that. And then we're also going to look at, I mean, it sounds crazy, just putting this in a minus 300 in a money line parlay is wild to me. But the fact I think he comes out and shuts the White Sox down, I'm going to put the Cubs in a money line parlay at minus 300. I got to get better number somewhere. Let me get 280 or something at least. I'm not taking a run line. I can't do it. No, the stats here are slightly better Chicago Cubs, but I just can't. No run line here. So we're going to do K prop here and money line parlay piece and move on to the next game. Next up, we got Detroit and Texas. We got Flaherty with a 3.46 against Dunning with a 3.94. Betting market, slight favorite Detroit on the road, 7.5 total with some juice on the over. Data time, 48% nerfy, not worth talking about. 4.3 runs for Detroit, batting 238, both middle of the road. Texas, 4.7 for 12th, 287 for 4th. Clear advantage, Texas, both sides here. Strikeouts wise, they're striking out a lot, Texas is, at 10.3 for 27th. Detroit, 9 at 20th. So we have slight advantage of Texas on stats. Meanwhile, slight advantage of Detroit for strikeouts. The main issue is Flaherty's pitching for Detroit. And what does he do? He strikes you out. He has 90 strikeouts so far. Looking at his game log, he's 9, 9, 9, 7, 6. And he's going up against a team who is 10.3 strikeouts per game right now for 27 in the last 3 games. Before that was 7.4, but they have trended up to more strikeouts. I'm going to ride that trend. I am 100% going to take Flaherty and his strikeout machine over here to see what that prop is, and going to take that strikeout prop. Also, we are going to look at Dunning as well just to see what he's got going on in his game log, and he hasn't done too much. So he's only had a handful of games, 5, 3, 4 on the innings. Last one gave up 4 walks with 6 Ks. There's nothing really to write home about here. The stats lean Texas, but the pitching leans Detroit. This is a game I don't particularly like the odds on. That's why it's close to a pick 'em. I'm going to pass on the money line. Total, I'm going to pass on as well because I just don't trust Dunning in this position. We could easily see it over, but then Flaherty might shut him down. It could happen. So only thing I'm taking in this game is Flaherty strikeout props and move on to the next game. Next up, we got St. Louis and Houston. We got Palante with 3.94, with Arrighetti Spaghetti with a 5.98. It's coming down. It's getting better. Betting markets currently have Houston at minus 150, over under 8.5 with some juice on the over. Looking at the data, we see 52% nerfy. That's not worth talking about. It's a pass. St. Louis, 3.3 runs a game, 25th, terrible. Houston, 5, 9th best advantage Houston. Batting averages 255 versus 208, advantage Houston. Strikeouts, advantage Houston because St. Louis is swinging at everything at 10.3. Now, if St. Louis is swinging at everything, who had the best game of their career last time out? Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's somebody by the name of Arrighetti Spaghetti himself. Dude had a beast of a game last time. Had 6 innings, nothing given up besides 2 hits and 8 strikeouts. Will he replicate that? I don't know, but I'm going to find out because he will be going into my K prop today for sure. A team that is striking out as much as St. Louis is in the past 3 games, yeah, I'll take a strikeout dude against that all day. Now, looking at his counterpart, we see here on his game log, doesn't have much. He has 1 game, and he had 6 innings, 3 hits, nothing earned, but no, he walked 3 and struck out 4, so nothing on K props here. Dude had 1 good game against the Reds. I don't trust that much at all. So for this game, I'm going to take Houston on the money line as a money line parlay piece. I'm going to take Arrighetti on his strikeout props, and that's it. Move on to the next game. Next up, we got Cincinnati and Colorado. We got Montas with a 4-6 against Block with a 4-1-5 betting markets. Reds slightly favored on the road. 10.5 with some juice on the over. Data-wise, makes sense because Cincinnati is number one in offense at 7.7 runs a game in the past three. Meanwhile, Colorado is almost dead last. 1.3 runs for 29th. Massive advantage here for Cincinnati. Also on batting average, since he's batting 345, first. They were batting first the past week. So bats are on fire. Colorado has cooled off. They're at 235 with 21st. They are swinging a lot, 9.7 strikeouts versus 8. So clear advantage of Cincinnati on the stats here. Looking over at the pitching matchup, Montas is out there. His game log shows us 6 hits. He gives up runs, 3-4, 3-4. He gives up runs. That's what he does. And a team that is 29th in runs is going to probably enjoy that a little bit. So I think Colorado gets more than their 1.3. They might get maybe 3 or 4 runs today. Now, Block, on the other hand, looking at his game log, we see that he's actually not that bad. 2 runs. He did get rocked by San Fran for 6 runs, but before that, 1-1-1. Now, what does that say? A slight advantage for Colorado on pitching, perhaps, but either way, the main things I'm looking at here is I'm taking Cincinnati on the money line mainly because the stats are just wildly different. These numbers just don't make sense. I'm taking Cincinnati mainly because of that. I'm getting 135 on the money line. We're taking that. We're also going to look at the with Colorado being at 29th at 1.3, I can't justify an over with such a low amount of runs scored by Colorado. So we're going to leave the total alone. We're going to take just Cincinnati money line and move on to the next game. Next up, we got San Diego and Arizona. We got Mazur with absolutely no stats up against Patrick Sandoval with his 5.34. Betting markets show a slight favor for the Padres and an 8.5 total. No juice either way. Data tells us that is a 40% nerfy, not what we're talking about. Both teams are starting to struggle with runs. 3.7 for San Diego was 20th, but the Angels are getting 1 run a game over the last 3 games, which is dead last at 1 run a game. Terrible. Batting average, 9th for San Diego at 273. Angels, again, last in the majors at 156. They've been 155 over the past week. Angels can't hit nothing right now. Also on strikeouts, San Diego will always be number 1, if not top 3. They just have such great discipline at the plate. Angels 26 at 8.3. Pitching matchups, we come over, we see San Diego and Mazur has nothing. It is his major league. It's a season debut. Welcome to the big leagues. Go have fun. You're facing a team that can't hit the ball right now, so you should do well. If you're not going to cut it out. So this is the perfect matchup for a dude who's making his season debut. So Sandoval, on the other hand, his game log, he got rocked by Cleveland 2 games ago. 6 innings before that, 2 runs. He's a roller coaster up and down. So this game is so hard to say what's going to happen. We have a pitcher we know nothing about, a team that's dead last in scoring, and we just don't know. So this entire game is going to be a pass for me. Move on to the next one. Next up, we got Mariners and Athletics. We got Kirby with a 408 and Spence with a 352. Betting markets favored Seattle minus 170 on the road. 7.5 with some juice on the over. Looking at the data, we see 68.3, close to a nerfy number we like, but not good enough to play it. It has to be 70 or higher for me to even consider it. Seattle, 3rd in batting, runs at 6.3. Oakland, 12th at 4.7. So we do have some runs being scored by these 2 teams in the past few games. Seattle, 245 average for 16th. Oakland, 240. They're about equal. Strikeouts wise, 6 for Seattle. Oakland at 9.3. Oakland's always in the bottom 5 or 10 when it comes to strikeouts. 24th. So looking at the pitching matchup in this one, we see Kirby's going out there. Last game was pretty good. Before that, 2 games in a row got rocked. 5 innings by Washington. 5 runs by Washington. 5 runs by Baltimore. He is prone to get rocked occasionally. So this could easily, we got 2 offenses doing pretty well against a pitcher who likes to get rocked. Spence, looking at his game log, he doesn't really get rocked. So I would initially lean Oakland in the pitching matchup here, which is weird to say against Seattle, who's been prone to have this year be pretty good in pitching. Weird to say, but the stats don't lie. With the numbers being the way they are, and Kirby showing he can 4, 5, 5. There's a 50-50 shot he's going to give up 5 runs. So with Oakland, dude, not giving money up. But the main thing I'm liking here is the number is 7.5 with some juice on the over. I am going to take the over here. I'm going to pass on a side. The stats lean Seattle, the pitching leans Oakland. That's a pass for there. I will take the over 7.5, and we will move on to the last game. Last game, we got the Giants and the Diamondbacks. We got Harrison with a 4-on-5 against Walston with a 2-1-6, but only 8 innings. Looking at the odds, Diamondbacks slight favorite at home, 9.5 your total, 130 towards the under. Data wise, we see 51% nervy, not what we're talking about. On the runs, 3.3 for San Fran's 23rd, Arizona 6.3 for third, advantage Arizona pretty decently. Same with batting average, 274 for 8th best, 233 for 22nd, advantage Arizona. But the problem is Arizona's last in strikeouts. They're swinging at everything, 11.3. That's not good. San Fran only 8. So we have Arizona scoring, but they're swinging a lot to get those scores. Looking at the pitching matchups, we have Harrison going out there. He 4-4-3-3. San Fran, he likes to give up runs. Question is, he's an iffy strikeout dude. So even though Arizona's dead last in strikeouts, we're swinging everything, I'm going to look at Harrison's K-props because 5.64, 5.2. If it's a 4.5, maybe even 5.5, I'll probably jump on it. But if it's higher than that, it's a pass all day on this. So for Arizona, they are sending out Walston. He's only pitched 2 games, 3.2 and 4.2 innings, but he did decent against Miami, but gave up 2 runs to LA. We don't know much about that at all. When it comes to the odds, I was leaning Arizona money line, but a dude who only has 8 innings pitched doesn't really strike much confidence in me. So I think I'm going to leave that alone. We are going to look at, like I said, we'll look at Harrison's K props against Arizona. Outside of that, we're going to pass on the rest. Okay, that's it. All 15 games broken down. Stats, new pitching matchups were added so you can see them on the screen along with your stats and everything else that I look at. If you like what you saw, drop a like, subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.